Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Go Big or Go Home. I am Old Man Troy, joined by the marvelous youngster Kevin Cunningham, a.k.a. Kid Cunny on Twitter. What's shaking today, my friend?
Not much, Troy. It seems like we haven't talked in ages because typically when we do the show, and Troy and I do a number of shows, if you want to listen to any of the shows that we do, it's like 3 or 4 shows a week. At Youngster Old Man on Twitter, all one word, at Youngster Old Man. That's where we post all of our links to all of our shows eventually once they're all, public and out there. And, out there on the radio and websites like thegruelingtruth.net. Shout out to them. But so we typically do this Go Big or Go Home show on Mondays, and it's now Wednesday when we're doing it because Troy has been a busy man. So we're doing this show today. We're doing an XFL show today. We're doing another show tomorrow that goes out to 4 different radio markets. So we'll be busy the next 2 days, but it seems like it's been a while, Troy.
Yeah, well, youngster, as the football NFL season starts, it's going to get even busier because right now, I know probably don't want to bore people on the Go Big show, but with our radio stuff, we've been doing like one national show that hits all the markets. When football starts, we've got to go back to doing individual shows, so it's going to get even busier. But you know what I like, you youngster? I really do like being busy. However, you're going to be really busy because there's something coming up that's a pretty big deal here in a few days. Let the listeners know what's going on, youngster. Let them know. Might have some new-time listeners, first-timers here.
Sure. 1 week, 2 weeks. What is it? Let's see here. 13,
Isn't
14,
it 3 weeks?
16 days. Yeah, 16 days away. That's insane. 16 days away until I'll be married. So not even 3 weeks. 2.5 weeks. Insanity. But yeah, obviously excited for that. And the only thing I have left to do, I believe I have done all the paying. I think all the paying is complete, which is awesome. But the payment stuff is done. I think literally all I have to do now is write my vows. So that shouldn't be too difficult because if you have a hard time saying what you love about your fiance, then maybe you shouldn't have a fiance if that's going to be an issue. So yeah, I'm excited. 2.5 weeks to go. But in the meantime, Troy, I get to talk sports with you. And today we're actually, for the first time in it seems like forever, we're actually talking about Big Ten stuff because
back to the Big Ten.
Yeah, no more soccer on the show for probably 4 years, right? I would assume.
Well, unless there's any major developments in U.S. soccer, we probably won't do it on this show. But I'm sure we'll talk about it on another show. If there's any major developments, coaching-wise or players,
we get the new message.
If the MLS would land like Ronaldo or something, then maybe we talk about that too. But I really don't think he'll be landing in the U.S. anytime soon. But let's get to the Big Ten, youngster. I know that's why listeners tuned in. They tuned in to listen to our – it's not even a recap. We're just going to grab a couple points from Media Day, and I love – let's put it this way. I love the idea that Media Day happened. I'm not a huge fan of Media Day. I mean, what are you really learning unless there's a major injury in some program? But what Media Day means, Kevin, football's right around the corner. College football is right around the corner. I mean, heck, after this weekend, we're in August. That means right after you're married, the college football season is going to start. That is awesome news. But let the listeners know what we're going to talk about today, and then let's roll right into it. We got 2 great topics on the Big Ten.
Yeah, we won't go crazy long because, like you said, we've got 2 topics here, and one of them is a common college football topic. Another one is an interesting football topic in general, no matter the level. And for certain teams in the Big Ten, for one coach especially brought it up. And we'll start with that. The Big Ten Media Days were taking place on Monday and Tuesday. Again, we're recording the show on a Wednesday, so each of the coaches have talked, and all the teams bring, I think it's either 2 or 3, I think usually 3 players, to talk to the certain media outlets. But the coach gets basically bombarded by questions from, left, right, down, up, from whoever gets to attend. And I noticed that one of my former employers, not Land Attend, Land Attend's done, but the site that I was working at before Land Attend had someone there asking some questions, and one of the questions basically leads to one of these topics which has gotten national attention. So it was just interesting to listen to. I haven't listened to literally every single coach, but I've listened to more than half for sure, and their full media day little speech. And most of it is coach talk. How's your team doing? Well, we're doing really good. Can't wait. Got 25 practices left with a day of nothing in between, and then we're starting the college football season. We're getting ready for whoever it is. Usually, it seems like for most teams now they start in late August, which is weird because you just think of September. Okay, it's truly football season, but like college football, their season literally starts in August. So one of the topics, the first topic we'll cover here, Jeff Brom, the coach at Purdue, was asked about, David Bluff is one of the quarterbacks, Elijah Sindelar, those two names, if you've been following the show for, since last college football season, we've gone through one college football season, 2 college basketball seasons on this Go Big or Go Home show with Troy and I. But Purdue last year, for anyone who knows Purdue, they utilized basically 2 different quarterbacks in Brom, Sindelar and Bluff, and it's, the old adage is that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really have none, because if you have the one, then you're just going to play the one. And he was asked about it, and Coach Jeff Brom at Purdue said, well, we've got 2 good ones, so, if that's what's best for the team, we'll play both of them. And to me, again, I stand by, this may be a really quick topic for us, Troy, but in general, no matter the level, I can understand utilizing another quarterback in certain spots. It certainly worked for Urban Meyer in Florida when they won a title with, I think it was Chris Leak and Tim Tebow. It can work, but to have one quarterback think, oh my God, if I start playing a little subpar, the other guy's going to get subbed in. I don't think that works. I think that to have a quarterback consistently play 3, 4, 5 plays in a game when his skill set is best suited for the certain situation in that game, to go in for a play and do what he does best. I understand that. I don't understand having 2 quarterbacks possibly splitting 34 reps and each guy getting 17 passing attempts at the end of the game. I think if you're doing that, you're in a world of hurt. That's my opinion on it. But I'm curious on your take, Troy. I don't remember exactly where you stand on this. And if you're Purdue, do you want to have 2 quarterbacks like this? Obviously, you'd rather have the one guy. But if you were Purdue's coach and you've got 2 B- level quarterbacks, let's say, is it, would you, Troy, go into any given week and say, yeah, you're the starter, but this guy can come off the bench if you start playing to see if we can get a lift?
No, you name your starter. That's it. I'm an old school guy. You know that. You know where I'm at. These things where, he's going to play a series and he's going to play a series, and then whoever has the hot hand. I mean, I've seen that in college football, Kevin, where quarterbacks will go in, play a couple series, and the next quarterback will go in, play a couple series. And then it's like, this guy gets some extended series because he's doing better against this team, and I think that's a bunch of BS. You need to play with one quarterback. Now, what you were saying, I agree with 100%. If there's a situation where maybe you have a traditional drop-back passer, 3, 5-step drops, timing, great arm, can throw the long ball, and then you have a very athletic guy that can run the option, and you want to change the pace, go for it.
Right.
Go for it. But the way that it works, you have to let each quarterback know what their role is.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a player and I'm not certain that I'm going to be in that game for, and I'll use soccer, for example, when I played, if I knew I wasn't going to be in there for 90 minutes and if I played bad, I was going to get yanked, how well do you think I played, youngster?
Sorry, did you say how well you played?
Yeah, how well do you think I'd play? If I had to sit there and worry about, if I make a mistake, if I play bad, I might come out of the game.
Right. I mean, you're constantly going to be on edge. You're not getting the best. I think it's something to be said when you have depth behind you and you know that, if something crazy happened, that someone else could step in and everything could be okay. But you don't want to have to worry just because you're playing level football, soccer, baseball, basketball, whatever. You don't want to have the constant fear of, oh, my God, if I screw up once, I'm going to get benched.
And some people, though, youngster, they say, well, that is what breeds success, because that guy will be on top of his game. No, I don't buy that. I've been a coach. And when players fear their job, it's like trying to pull them up from the bottom of a cliff, because that's what they're thinking about. They're actually trying too hard. They're not relaxed. They're not playing the game. They're more worried about not screwing up than actually playing to their level. And so I look at Purdue. You got to have a competition. Who is the guy that's going to help us win football games? And if you think both can, well, then you got a really tough decision, and you got a good problem there if you think both can be the starter. But if you're going to go in and start alternating quarterbacks and doing things like this, I guess you can do it successfully if, hey, the quarterbacks know this is my role. I'm playing the first quarter. Then the next quarterback's coming in. But my problem with that is that what if the guy in the first quarter is 7 out of 8 for 110 yards and a touchdown?
Right.
And now all of a sudden you said, well, the old man starts the game and he does really well. And then, the youngster's got to come in. Now I'm going to sit down on the bench after I just had a great first quarter, be like, oh, whatever. I guess I'm going back in the third quarter. And you can ruin momentum at that time.
Yeah.
So,
or if you're the coach in that situation, you're like, oh, gee, well, he's got a hot hand, so never mind. You're not going in the second quarter. And then it just becomes, again, just a jumbled mess, in my opinion.
Yeah, so, I guess if you're a coach and you can make it work, you can make it work. But I'm not a fan of it. And like you said, if there's a quarterback there and all of a sudden, he is playing bad. He's throwing 3 interceptions on 5 pass attempts, and he just feels, or he looks like a deer in headlights. Well, yeah, yank him. Sit him down for a series or two. Put the other guy in. And then on the other end of the spectrum, like we said, Kevin, there is a time if you have 2 different skill set quarterbacks that you can go in with change of pace. Or even if you have 2 traditional drop back passing quarterbacks, but all of a sudden you got one guy that throws a really good deep ball, the other guy is more intermediate. Yeah, put together some plays and have a certain, script, because most of these coaches will script their plays, bring them in, catch the other defense off guard. But here's the problem. Once you do that, every team is going to know, okay, so-and-so is coming in the game. These are the 5 plays that he's run. Right. Let's adjust our defense. So, again, I'm the guy that says stick with one quarterback. And if you don't like the way he's playing, then put your backup in. That's why you have a starting quarterback, and that's why you have a backup quarterback. So there's my thought, youngster. Anything to add?
No. If I were Jeff Brom and Purdue's coach, or like Minnesota ran through at least 4 quarterbacks last year, and that was basically all on injury. But if you're Purdue and you've got 2, and I really do think they have 2 capable quarterbacks, neither of them are great, but I would say you've got 2 B- level quarterbacks there. That's what I would consider those 2. You have the entire off season to see and watch, and honestly, I would bring in literally every single offensive player and every single defensive player that you're going up against in practice, and it's like, who fears you more? If talking to a cornerback, you pull him into your office and you say, which quarterback, honestly, do you fear more? Who's better? Seriously. And you as a head coach, your offensive coordinator, your quarterback's coach, all those people should be able to tell who the guy should be to start week 1. There should be some sort of, okay, we should go with this guy because, It shouldn't be completely 50-50 dead even, flip a coin. There should be someone who slightly has a nod, and I would say to that guy, okay, you're starting week 1. You are our starting quarterback. And until, you give us complete reason to bring in the backup, then so be it. But I don't want you looking over your shoulder, worrying after the first quarter because we're down 14-0 and you threw 2 picks. No, you're playing the opening game. You're our guy. If you get hurt, obviously that's one thing. But I don't want you to fear your job just because you throw 1 interception, you get sacked, you throw a bad ball here and there. Just don't worry about it. You're our guy in week 1 and for the foreseeable future this entire season. If you just keep playing your brand of football because we believe in you. That's what I would say as a coach. I would give the quarterback as much assurance as possible. That's my last comment.
Paul Chris put all his confidence in Mr. Hornibrook. Called him a great quarterback.
Yeah. He said Alex is, a really good or great. The exact words he used, but it's nice to know that Hornibrook can even get better than he is, Troy. And to those listeners, very hard to believe that Alex Hornibrook can get much better than he is now. But
he can get a lot better. I'll just throw it out there. None of this sarcasm. No more sarcasm on this show.
Okay.
So the reason I brought it up is exactly what I was saying and you're saying. And Paul Chris is putting all his confidence in Hornibrook because what's behind him? Not as good. I mean, right now, that's what Chris is seeing. Hornibrook's the guy this year that's got to help me try to win a title. And by title, I mean Big Ten title. I'm not talking national championship. Paul Chris has put his confidence in the guy, but he also threw out the carrot and said he can still get better. And so that's where the caveat is. He has backed his quarterback 100%. He's given him confidence. And, you and I think it's lip service, that he's complimenting him so much, but he's the starting quarterback, Kevin. You know as well as I do, quarterbacks are a very fickle position. Confidence is a lot of that position. You don't have your confidence, and it's with any sport. When you lose your confidence, you're done. And it's any position on the field. Kickers, too, especially. Kicker loses his confidence, boom, don't even let him try a field goal because it's gone. It's done. He's going to miss. So I can't argue with Paul Chris. I don't agree with it that he's a great quarterback or even a above-average quarterback. I think he's an average quarterback. But Paul Chris knows that Hornibrook is the guy that's got to get under center week in, week out, and try to lead the Badgers to the Big Ten title game. And so he's going to give him all the confidence in the world, but he also said he can get better. That's where he can come back to and say, okay, let's go to work. Let's go to work, son. Time to go to work now. I just wanted to throw that out there, youngster.
Yeah, and it's been talked about, I don't remember who, and this was brought up during Chris' press conference, that some CBS, Fox, whoever, said, look out for Wisconsin, they can win the whole thing. So, I mean, the whole, they went 12-0 last year in the regular season because their schedule was Cupcake City. I think that's partly true, but they were also really good, and they showed that against Miami, who was a top 10 team a year ago, in the bowl game. And it's not as though Miami sat all their starters in the bowl game. It is a bowl game, but Wisconsin showed they could play with basically anybody. I mean, Ohio State didn't obliterate them in the Big Ten title game either. Wisconsin was really good a year ago, and you're bringing back basically your entire offense from last season, including up to 3, it seems like, first-round NFL draft picks on the offensive line. And if that's what Jonathan Taylor and Hornibrook have to work with in front of them, I think the offense could be pretty efficient. They were a year ago. So I expect them to be very good again this year. Their schedule is harder this year. We'll talk more about Wisconsin's schedule in August. We'll talk about all these teams more in August. But right now it's July, talking about media days. The other big topic that was covered, and like I said, I know this person who asked this question to basically all these coaches, and it got an interesting response from Jim Harbaugh. Basically, the college football playoff, we are 4 years into it now. There's another 2 years left in the deal for sponsors, and then the first 6 years of the deal, it's a 12-year deal in total, this 4-team playoff. But they have to get new sponsors starting, for the 2020 season. So we've got this year and the next college football season before basically the NCAA has to get new sponsors for the playoff. If the sponsors say, no, we want 8 teams, we want 16 teams, we want 128 teams, then maybe the NCAA will have to give in. I don't know exactly how that works, but I'm sure my early assumption is the sponsors will pony up money for another 6 years of a system, because that's what basically the long-term deal is that this 4-team playoff is in effect for 12 years. We've done 4 of them. So we've got supposedly 8 to go. But the college football playoff system was brought up to each of the Big Ten coaches, basically, and Jim Harbaugh said, I think the more is better, and we can get to an 8-team playoff, and eventually we can get to 16. and that's something that I haven't really heard from, I don't think, any coach. I mean, all the talk is, gee, it'd be nice if there were 8. And I think that's probably realistically the sweet spot is 8, because you get 1 from every conference in. You get the top non-Power 5 conference team in, like UCF a year ago, and then you truly have 2 other at-larges. You know, that seems fair to me. Pushing it to 16, then it gets stupid, because then Ohio State loses.
Watered down at that point, youngster, if you go to 16. Way too many.
Ohio State lost to Iowa by 40 last year, and they would easily get into the 16-team playoff. I mean, they would have been the 15 in. So you can't. 16 is way too much to me. I think that's honestly just stupid at that point. And coaches want that, because it's like, gee, we made it to the college football playoff this year. You can't fire me. I did a good job. And all you have to do is pull off 1 upset, and then it's like, hey, we're in the last 8. Or you're supposed to win your first game, then you pull off an upset, boom, you're in the semifinals. I mean,
and that helps for recruiting too. When you say I made the college football playoff, and we're the 16th best team, and then we played Alabama and lost 78-0. That's what you'd see, Kevin. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be 78-0, but if you look at, and you kind of alluded to it, if you looked at last year's playoff teams, and then go even if we use the college football ranking system, team 16 against team number 1, it's probably not even going to be a good game. I'm sorry. How many times on this show, Kevin, have we talked about the top 20 and all the movement that goes on in the teams? If you're ranked 13th and you lose, you're probably falling possibly out of the top 20. And if you're like 21st and you get a win against a top 10 team, well, then you're moving up to like 12. But then the next week you can lose to the 70th ranked team. Those teams that are in the teams are there for a reason. They're inconsistent. They pull off a big win, or they have easier schedules. I'm not saying they're bad teams. I mean, but teams that are in the team, 12, 13, 14, a lot of those teams have 3 losses. Some of them 4.
I was just going to bring up, Troy. Clemson was the number 1 team going into the college football playoff a year ago. Clemson would have played Michigan State. Michigan State was good last year, but they were not on the level of Clemson. Oklahoma would have played TCU, who had 3 losses. Georgia would have played Notre Dame, who had 3 losses. Alabama would have played Stanford, who had 4 losses. In the first round, Alabama would have killed them. I mean, it's a joke. There were, you could say, 12 really quality teams, but that's even probably pushing it, to be honest, before you start getting to 4 lost teams here. I mean, 16 is way too much.
It is. And to me, I even think 8 is pushing the limit. Yeah. Last year, to me, was probably an anomaly where the top 8 teams last year, you probably could have made an argument for any one of those top 8 to be in the top 4. But to me, I think it's an anomaly. But I think people get caught up in a playoff, like, playoff, make the playoff. If this is a true playoff, the best teams have to be in it. The best teams. And they have to be teams that can actually compete for a title. And we look back now, 4 years we've been doing this. And when you look back, you can go back to years 1, 2, 3. I don't think the top 8 that you had 8 championship teams. This year, it would have been very close that those 8 teams all had a legitimate reason why they could win a title.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could go back and you can make arguments in the early first 3 years that, this 8th team, they got a great defense, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But let's be real. You look at Wisconsin, Kevin, and I said it all year, and I'm not a Wisconsin Badger hater. Kevin, I am a Badger fan through and through. I love the Badgers. They were not a national championship team last year, and part of it's quarterback play. They've got the running back, they've got the offensive line. They don't have great wideouts. They've got young wideouts that can develop. But defensively last year, that team rocked.
Yep.
That team rocked defensively. But were they a national championship team? No, I don't believe they were. So all of a sudden you go, we're taking the top 8. Wisconsin made the playoff. Then it would have been like, okay, well, let's get them in the playoff. And they probably would have hung in there. And they probably would have done okay.
Yeah, Wisconsin last year would have played Georgia in the first round. Then if they would have won, they probably would have played Oklahoma. Then they probably would have had to play Alabama. I mean, is Wisconsin going bam, 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 3 straight wins there? It's extremely difficult.
So I like 6 teams, youngster. I like 6, and giving the top 2 teams a bye. That's what I like. I like 6 teams because if you think back, the debate is, so-and-so got in and so-and-so didn't get in. And a lot of times it's only 1 or 2 teams that you're talking about in the playoffs. And so if you have 6 teams, then you're going to have the debate, well, what about 7 and 8? Oh, my God, the debate's going to go on and on and on, youngster.
Always. We have it in basketball with team number 69. Literally.
Yeah. So you're always going to have the debate. But to me, when you look at 6 teams, you have your top 2 teams. So the regular season counts. I mean, it matters because if you're 1 or 2, you get a bye.
Right.
You get a bye in the first round. And then teams 3 through 6, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. Winner of 3-6 plays the second seed. Winner of 4-5, they play the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Very similar to the NFL playoff system, if you think about it, Kevin.
Yep.
Very similar. And I think 6 teams every year, we could probably argue that you're going to find 6 quality championship teams. Now, you're going to have an off year where maybe there's only 2 or 3, but I think in the majority of years you can get 6 quality teams and have, 3, or it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 5 really good games. I think if you have 8, I still think the first round games, between 1 and 8 and 2 and 7, I mean, they'd still be good games, but it's kind of like now you're putting this best team, a team that could win a national championship, at risk of being upset. I mean, and me, I love underdogs, but I also like good football. And so when you look at, is the 8th team really deserving? I mean, that's how I'm going with that. Right. I want to make sure that in the college football playoff that you have teams that can win a national championship, if that makes any sense to you, youngster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 8 is a very nice sweet spot. I would not go more than 8. 6 I like. I like the way it is now because there's a ton of drama for who should be in the top 4. There were 2 conferences left out a year ago, and you can't say that was wrong because the SEC had the final 2 teams in the whole thing, and Georgia had Alabama absolutely beat. Alabama had to go to its backup freshman quarterback to pull out a win, So in general, I'm with you. I can remember off the top of my head when Texas A&M finished 9th, and they had Johnny Manziel as their quarterback and Mike Evans as the wideout, and that team was really coming along strong at the end of the year, and they obliterated whoever they played in the bowl game that year. And it's like, my God, that team could have played with anybody. But if that's the case, so be it. You shouldn't have finished the regular season ninth. There's a reason you finished ninth. And if it goes to 8, I'd be shocked if it doesn't go to 8 by the time this 12-year cycle is done. I'd be shocked, if not sooner, but at the latest, I would say 8 years from now, we'll have an 8-team playoff because it seems like everybody wants it. All the coaches, there's more money with it, realistically. But 6, I like your idea.
You brought up the biggest point, youngster, about going to 8 teams. Yeah. You brought it up right there. Doesn't matter how logical you and I can talk about 6 is better than 8. 8 is too many. In the world of money, it's never too many teams. And, you look at Jim Harbaugh there, kind of fishing out there and getting on the political side of all these people. More is good. More is good. And people think Jim Harbaugh is, up in the clouds and pretty close to heaven with God as a football coach at Michigan. So they're going, well, Jim Harbaugh said more is good. Let's get more. No. More is not good. More waters it down.
Yep.
But, you brought up the key word, youngster. You brought up moolah. Moolah for every extra game out there for the university to reel in their pocket. The greedy NCAA, the greedy universities out there. And you know what, Kevin? Even our old school, University of Wisconsin, Whitewater, they're not turning down money. They're greedy too. They want money. They want money every day. They call me every 3 months for money. They want money. Every school, I don't care if you're D1 or D3, they want money. They need money. And there's never too much money to be had in college sports. So that's why it's going to 8 teams, Kevin. And eventually, I hope we never see it. It could even go beyond 8. Because once they see all the dollars rolling in, oh, my gosh, here we go. Got to add more teams. Because then there's going to be a debate with teams 9, 10, 11, and 12. Well, we were ranked 12th, and we beat the 7th-ranked team. We beat them twice. We beat them in the regular season. Then we beat them in whatever. Come on. It'll never stop. It's all about the moolah, like you said. Sorry to interrupt you, youngster.
You're good. I'm basically done. I think really I do not want to see more than 8. I really don't. Because what makes college football, even the NFL, you can lose 9 games and still be in the playoffs as long as you get lucky and win your division somehow. We've seen it before. In college basketball, I love college basketball. You can lose, 15 games, and you can still make the tournament. Well, you could lose realistically 35 games and win your conference tournament and be in. But what makes college football great is that literally every game matters. And if you lose one, it's like, well, we're still realistically in it. Okay, sure, but now truly you cannot lose from that point on. Otherwise, you can be Ohio State and have 2 losses and be screwed. Or you can be Auburn and be screwed. And depending on who you lost, if you lost 1 game, you can be screwed, like Wisconsin. Literally every single game mattered for Wisconsin a year ago. So I think that's what makes college football is that literally every single game matters. And if you have 6 teams and you have a couple buys, then it's really going to matter who's seeded first and second, which I think adds more drama. And that's realistically, I mean, whether it's movies, whether it's sports, I think we all love drama when it comes to entertainment. Not necessarily our own lives, but in terms of drama and who should get in, the 5th team or the 4th team, Ohio State, Alabama, oh my God, this huge debate. And then Alabama wins the whole thing. So I think drama is king in terms of entertainment and getting eyeballs to televisions. Because every single week, once it hits week 8, 9, whatever it is, and the College Football Playoff Committee comes out with the rankings, that gets a pretty big number to see, oh, my God, where's my team? Where did we go? Did we move up a couple? Did we stay the same? Oh, my God, are we going – how do we position ourselves to get in the top 4? I think once you have 16, it's just you can lose 3 games, you can lose 4 games and be Stanford and be perfectly fine.
Yeah, which is a quarter of the season.
Right. The third.
That's a quarter of the regular season. You'd be like you win like 60% of your games and still be able to have a chance to get into the playoff.
Yeah,
I think that's absurd.
Yeah,
to even think about that. But unfortunately, common sense does not trump money. That's why I think eventually you're going to see 16 teams. I hope not in my lifetime, and I'm getting old, so hopefully not in my lifetime will I see 16 teams. I'm not saying that I won't watch, but I think at that point you really, really, really are watering down something to me that I really enjoy, which is the college football playoff.
Yep.
I mean, you look at the good football that's being played in those playoff games. I mean, look at the games last year. Yeah, every once in a while you're going to have that one-off that is a blowout. You know, number 1 can blow out number 4, number 2 can blow out number 3, whatever. But that happens in any sport. But for the most part, when you get quality teams, you're going to get good games. So I got nothing else, youngster. What else you got?
No, that's it. There was no major breathtaking news that came from these media days. I guess I'll conclude it that way. There was no, Wisconsin starting running back tears his ACL. Oh, my God, big news. There was none of that, at least to my knowledge. Ohio State had a coaching change that Urban Meyer had to answer a bunch of questions for, but it was, not the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. It was, nothing like that. There was no insane news, but there were a couple interesting topics that I thought we could talk about, and we obviously did talk for longer than I expected. So next week, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to talk about, although next week I guess it'll be the very end of July. I think starting August, we can really start looking at these teams because there will only be at that point like, oh my God, 3 weeks left until these teams actually play games. We can go over 3 teams or so each week and say, hey, let's dive into their schedule a little bit, see who's returning, and talk more in depth about each team to appease all the fans that listen to the show. We know how many people listen to the show. We get the numbers. It's awesome, and especially when a college football season is really here and we're talking about each of these teams, then fans will truly care. Middle of June, middle of July is one thing. Once we're talking about your team, then, our numbers go up. It's pretty common sense.
That's the thing, youngster. Yeah, when we come on the air next week, we've got to start doing our previews because you've got teams. And we've only got limited weeks before game 1, and we can't fit all of them in. Well, we could. I know that we've tried to do these preview shows before, and you and I have no problem going 2 hours. Right. But listeners don't want to hang on the show for 2 hours.
No.
So I hadn't even brought it up to you in the pregame, but I think that's what we do. We start grabbing teams, we just maybe go right down the list. Bam, bam, bam this week, bam, bam, bam the week after, and by the time we're done, it is college football season. Well, with that said, folks, hope you enjoyed the show today. For the youngster, I am the old man. Make sure you find us on Twitter. Youngster Old Man is our Twitter handle. I am at TroyRobert967, and the marvelous youngster is at KidCunny, KIDQNI. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We'll get back at you next week. Have a good day, everyone.